Good morning and welcome to Breaking Burnout for Nurses podcast. Today I have Carmen Ando. Actually, she's back from doing a previous episode with me. Last time she talked about travel nursing, and so we learned a lot about her adventures with traveling around the country, different nursing assignments. Her favorite, which is Alaska, she revealed to us. But anyway, so I know in between travel assignments, she still loves to travel even more. And so today she's going to talk to us about solo female travel. All right. So welcome, Carmen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. So, travel in the first place is very, it's fun, it's interesting, and can be very wild. So, especially as a solo female traveler, there's some things that you have to consider before going on your trip. So, gonna share some of those things with us today.
Well, off the bat, I will quote one of the solo female travel bloggers. She owns a website called legalnomads.com. First tip that she gives to solo female travelers, simple. Dress to see, not to be seen. Meaning, try to blend in, try not to get attention, especially that you're by yourself. And as a female solo traveler, you're going to be target to a lot of crazies out there. I particularly had two encounters when I traveled solo in Croatia, and I wasn't even dressed to get attention. I was just dressed normally. I was on the beach, shorts, t-shirt. I was in a restaurant, and I was hit on by two different guys, two different times, just because I was by myself. And that tells you that as a female, there's always that possibility of being a target by any male person who notice that you're by yourself. And it's how
Plus, you're so cute. They're
Aw.
gonna hit on you.
So it's how you respond to those situations and how you get yourself out of it is what's going to help you in the long run if you continue to do travel by yourself. And as a traveling nurse, I'm very well versed about that. It's the kind of job that I do. I'm always traveling solo, obviously, because that's part of the job. And I have a van. I did not live in it full time, but I would camp in it in the middle of nowhere, not in a campground by myself. And my friends were always concerned about my safety because I'm by myself inside a van and nobody else. So there are a lot of ways to keep yourself safe. And again, first thing is do not get attention, do not attract attention. You go to Thailand, you wear a t-shirt that says Thailand, that screams I'm a tourist, mug me. So try not to do that. I used to do that myself, and then I started following these female travelers that do solo trips around the world, and I learned along the way from them. And that's actually a really valid point. Don't walk around with a map in your hand because that screams, I'm a tourist, not from here. So again, self-awareness, and be aware of your surroundings.
Okay. Yeah. Well, sometimes you just can't help but look like a tourist. But what are some other things that you can do? Like, what happens when that guy hits on you? And if you're not interested, how do you put him off?
So to go back to that statement, do not get attention. I know there's a lot of social media now. It's important to look cute in Instagram. I know some of my friends travel and they have to have an outfit on a daily basis because you have to look cute. You have to, be like some theme or whatever. But really, what's most important? Your safety or your Instagram or social media. So that's a decision you have to make for yourself. I can't even remember. So I basically just walk away from him and I said, I'm not interested. I think he was drunk. The other one was not drunk, but I basically tried to finish my food and left. And that's all I did. Do not engage any longer. Do not piss them off because your engagement with a stranger might be construed as you're interested. So it's better to just let it go and walk away. And that's exactly what I did.
Do you carry any weapons or anything like that?
I'm from California. I'm from California. We cannot carry weapons. My Texan friends are like, you need to carry this. Like, remember, I'm from California. We can carry a lot. My van, though, I have a pair of crampons and an ice axe, and I will use them if I have to. I'm just kidding. I do have bear spray for hiking, but even
Mhm.
that will get you into trouble. I mean, I remember driving to Alaska with my van from California through Yellowstone, crossing through Alberta, Canada. And I just forgot that I had a bear spray in my van that I failed to declare. And that got me into trouble with the border. Like, I didn't realize you get into trouble
Oh,
for a bear spray. In
oh,
Alaska, they want you to protect yourself. Okay, carry a bear spray, carry a gun. We want you to protect yourself from wildlife. But Canada is a different ballgame. I almost the guy basically said, "I'm going to give you a pass. This I have the power to fine you $1,000 for this, and for the next 7 years, you're going to be detained in any border around the world because of this offense." And
oh
he
my.
said he was going to give me a pass, including the two people who were with me. So I would have been like, I would have felt really bad for them as well. So I didn't realize that's gonna get me into trouble.
So, but you've never been physically like attacked or anything, hopefully, while you've been traveling by yourself?
I have not. When I was in college, I would go home to, using like a public transportation. And I remember my girlfriend was walking next to me and she had a backpack, and this kid was trying to dig into her backpack while we were walking. And that's probably one of the closest call I've had as far as being physically, it wasn't even an attack, but we were able to prevent that. We yelled at him, you drove him drove him away. And then at one time we were on the beach with my high school friends. I wasn't solo at the time, but we were riding my little moped, and some drunk guys were trying to follow us and scare us in their motorcycle too. And it was a very long story, but that was probably the closest. Nothing happened, but of course it was scary because you've got three drunk people tailing you, and they really tailed us all the way to until, and I saw a cop. I went to the cop right away, and these guys basically just drove off. But not in my international travels, thank God.
So, tell us about maybe one of your most favorite solo traveling adventures.
Favorite soul. Croatia was beautiful. I rented an apartment from this guy and everything. I was in Dubrovnik. I was actually in the outskirts of Dubrovnik, Old Town, maybe like a 10-minute bus ride from Old Town because you don't want to be in Old Town. It's so expensive. A lot of tourists. So I was renting this apartment that overlooks the ocean. And I took the bus for $1 to town. That's what I did. And then I took some guided trips for one day to like Bosnia, Herzegovina, to Montenegro. And then there are days that I just want to sit at a cafe and by myself and watch people all day. I don't know if you're a fan of Game of Thrones. If you are, then Croatia would mean more to you. And I watched Game of Thrones from the beginning till the end, so I know exactly where they were filming them. I mean, there was a tour that I took. It was called the Game of Thrones tour. So basically, they take you to all these film locations,
Yeah.
and yes, it was beautiful. And there's a part in the show that's called King's Landing, and which is where the one of the kingdoms of the Lannister family was located. But it's actually a cafe, and that's exactly what I did. Sit in a cafe all day and just watch people. And being in King's Landing, like theoretically, I was in King's Landing. So it was awesome. So yeah, that was another one was Bhutan in the
Oh, okay.
Himalayas. So my friends and
Mhm.
I did a trek to Everest Base Camp, and then everybody else left, and I decided I'm gonna stop by Bhutan. No one was interested. It's a 45-minute flight from Kathmandu, so I decided, well, I'm already here, might as well go. Well, in Bhutan, you are not allowed, during those time, 2014, you're not allowed to travel alone without a guide. So you have to have a guide.
Mhm.
And so I had a guide and a driver. So it was just the three of us. And the guide was like, you can design this itinerary the way you want because you're by yourself. And it was awesome. I made a lot of friends on that trip. One day the guide was like, do you want to go clubbing? I'm like, sure. So he picked me up from my hotel, took me to a Western club because he wanted me to see. I'm like, no, I'm done with this. This is what we do in America. This is what we have in America. So he took me to a traditional Bhutanese club, and it was very interesting. So these girls, they go to the DJ, pick their favorite song, and they go up the stage and just dance. Like for me, that's very brave to stand on the stage and dance while people watch you. And, and it was really interesting. So So my guy's like, I'll buy you a beer, and we just like chatted with all those locals. That was a really, really good trip, and I was by myself, no distractions, and I
And you
was able
felt
to do
safe?
whatever. I felt very safe. Bhutan is a very safe country, and he's like, "Do you want to see the king?" I'm like, "I can see the king." Like, yeah, he's like, "It's not a big deal here. You can see the king playing football in the local stadium." Like, that's how down to earth this kingdom is, and that's how beautiful and very cultural this kingdom. It was one of the best trips of my life.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yes.
I don't travel by myself very often, but when I do, I feel like because I'm more of an introvert, but when I travel by myself, I feel like I talk to people easier for some reason. It's like you become more outgoing when you travel by yourself. Anyway, I know you travel a lot by yourself, so you're very used to it.
Yeah, and I agree to that because, for example, I tell some people like if you travel with a group, like I'm not disagreeing to that. I have a group of people that I travel with. Depends on
Mhm.
what I do. Tracking expeditions. I did a girls trip to Bali, Indonesia. It was all girls. It was awesome. But what I'm trying to say is, if you travel with a group that you seem to concentrate on that group because you already know each other. So
Mhm.
you kind of miss out in meeting other people. And like you
Mhm.
said, like when I was in Bosnia. I met two solo travelers. They're both from America. The girl was actually married, but her husband is not interested in travel. Interesting pairing. So
Mhm.
she left him with her cat at home and travels by herself around the world. And then the other guy was from Portland. So when we were in Mostar in, in Bosnia, so we had lunch together, we chatted, and we did things together. And after that trip was done, we parted, did our own ways. And this is the thing, like you meet people along the way when you're traveling by yourself because trust me, the solo travels also want to meet solo travelers. For
Mhm.
example, I was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I was by myself. I took
Mhm.
a train to a place called Batu Cave, which is a beautiful place for $1. And I was on my way out and I was trying to go to Chinatown or find some place to have lunch. And there was these two guys who I'm sure they just met on the train because they introduced themselves. One was from Amsterdam and one was from Germany. He's on a gap year. Europeans do a gap year
Mhm.
when they graduate from high school. They travel around the world for 1 year before they start. They know how to live life, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So they noticed that I was
Mhm.
by myself, so they approached me and they're like, "You're by yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "We're heading out to Chinatown. Are you interested to join us?" And I was like, "Sure." So I had lunch with them, and then they're like, "Well, where are you off to?" And I said, "I'm hoping to go to a market to buy some gifts." So they took me to this market, and then we parted ways. And one of the guys from Amsterdam, he was living in Kuala Lumpur for 3 years and just doing odd jobs to support his travel, like selling flowers and whatever. It was really
Oh,
interesting
okay.
conversation. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
why
so
that's why I love solo travels. So
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, Carmen, for being with us today. If you're inspired by Carmen, which I am, I always see her Instagram videos and pictures. So you can follow her on Instagram at Wanderlust and Trails. And you'll see all her beautiful pictures of where she happens to be at the next week. She's always traveling around. So make sure to follow her on Instagram at Wanderlust and Trails. Anyway, thank you again, Carmen, for being on my show.
it was
And
fun.
we will see you next week on Breaking Burnout for Nurses podcast. Bye bye.